Afar everyone, Toodles20 here, and welcome back to Osahra. If you're joining me for the very first time, welcome to the nation of Osahra. This is a country that I am building with my fellow dictator, Skibbeth, who is not joining us today. He generally joins us in these episodes, however, his work's been a little bit screwy today, and he can't actually join us, so that's okay. You'll be just joining me today in this episode. And I'll be taking control of what we're going to be doing. Before we get into today's time-lapse, what I do want to mention is I do want to finally announce the name of the Osahrian dollar. And that is now the Osahrian dinar. And that was voted by Freedom920. And not voted, but it was mentioned by him, which is a little bit concerning because he is actually one of the founding members of the rebellion group that is fighting against Skib and I, which is a little bit concerning for a rebellion group to actually come up with a name to control a little bit of the currency. So, you know what, take that as you like, but for Skib and I mean, the votes were very overwhelming. It was very overwhelming in the favor of that name, so yeah. Now that is the official dollar of Osahra, the Osahrian dinar. Now, what we are looking at right now is the oil fields that I built in the previous episode on my channel. I bloody love this site so much. It's probably one of my finest builds. There's a few things that just really worked so nicely. Exhibit A is the rock here is just made by Ronix. They turned out so nice, and I think they really blend in pretty nicely with this area. And also these pipes that was kindly made by a Bearded Monkey just for this series. And they're in the workshop as well. If you haven't checked them out, definitely go and check them out. Today's episode, we're going to continue building a bit more of this area. I have this pipeline here that's going to be connected to an oil facility that's going to hold a lot of the oil pumped from this area. And something else that I'm going to work on is this intersection that's been bothering me for quite a long time. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this intersection. It flows very nice, handles traffic beautifully, but in terms of realism and, you know, what would actually sit in an area like this, we need something far larger. I'm going to be taking heaps of inspiration, and we're going to scoot over to Google Earth right now and look at an area in Dubai that has a very, very similar intersection to what I want to build. I'm going to be like following this probably about 80%. I will be putting my own spin on it, and if I get time, I will probably detail around this area, but like, who knows, I tend to run out of time in these time lapses. So that's the plan for today. I should probably let Skib build this area. He is the intersection master. However, I'm so keen to build on this spot right here, and so I'm just going to totally go for it. So that's going to be what's happening today. So kicking off the time lapse, and I'm going to start with the oil facility. And you know, the way I'm kind of imagining this facility to work is the oil that's being pumped from the jacks just around that corner there is you know, needs a bit of a spot where it's going to be a lot of the oil is going to be held. So you know, this is something that a few people pointed me in this direction in the last episode, because I, you know, try to get as detailed and as accurate as I can, but you know, sometimes I just miss the mark. And I think that was just like one time that I kind of just, you know, missed out on a couple of the finer details. And you know, something that I notice with my builds is I can go into as much detail as I like, but you know, in terms of actually getting the job done, sometimes you just need to start, because I don't know about you guys, but I can spend hours floating on Google Earth thinking about what I want to build and noticing all these things that I need to add in, and then I just run out of time, and I don't actually get to pull up down half the stuff that I was looking at. So, you know, it's good to kind of get a rough idea of how these places work. But what I'm trying to say is I've probably missed out on some fine details of this area. So, I mean, if you can think of anything that I might need to add, please let me know in the comments, because I do want this to be as accurate as possible. There's definitely things that I saw in these oil facilities. I'm looking at Google Earth and I realized that I just, if I wanted to actually get this job done, I probably should just get a Google on rather than plop down every fine detail. So, if there's any quick fixes you think I can add down, let me know. I am using a lot of BEARDMONKEY'S pipes in this episode as well. I mean, they look so awesome. And I'm really curious to see what other people are doing with these pipes. Like, I don't think they necessarily have to be oil pipes. Like, this is just something that I'm using it for. And I've noticed that there's been tons of downloads on the Steam Workshop. So people are definitely getting their hands on it. So, Twitter and Instagram and Facebook are the best places to reach Skib and I. And if you feel so inclined to tweet at us, we'll I think we're both pretty keen to check out the things that you're building with these pipelines. So definitely go and do that. And if you are using these pipelines, definitely rate them up on the workshop, because I know BEARDMONKEY'S put a lot of hard work into them, and Skib and I can only rate them up once. So definitely hit us up on there. Not just us, but a Beard, good old Beard. Now this is generally the shape of the oil facility that I'm going for, and like, I'm basing this off a lot of pictures, but I am just there was only so much time I could spend looking at Google Earth to get some inspiration. I really did just have to go, get a wriggle on and get the work done. So, and I'm pretty happy with the way the shape looks. I do kind of feel like making it a little bit larger, and I dare say I will be plopping down another one somewhere scattered in the Osahrian desert. I mean, if you got some ideas, highly encourage you guys to hit us up on the comment section to tell me where else you think we should be putting down a oil facility, or even maybe a refinery, because I did intend to put a refinery in this very location, but then realized that refineries aren't really in the same vicinity as the jacks. So, quickly changed it to just a holding facility, which someone pointed me in that direction in the comments, which is, really good, because I definitely miss out on some fine details every now and again. It's really fun actually using these pipes to connect everything together. I think it's a really cool idea where, you can see where they've been pumped from. And so you can see where they've been pumped from, then you can see where they're held, and then you see trucks driving around Osahra transporting these goods, and then you'll see a train driving around oil, and then these pipes will probably end up leading down to Riverside, where it'll meet another holding facility, where then it'll eventually jump on a barge and shipped out into the greater Osahra. And that's the sort of stuff I like. And that's the sort of stuff that encourages me to continue working on maps in Osahra, and even in my own projects, is just seeing from one place to another how it all connects. And man, City Skylines does a great job at making that possible. I think the mechanics, I mean, we give this game a lot of shit for its bugs and its quirks, and sometimes its expansion packs aren't exactly what we are after, but in terms of the actual game, it's damn beautiful. It's damn beautiful. And to see that production line is just it's sick. I love seeing it. And it makes me think of other production lines that we can probably create in Osahra. Is this going to be the only export we're going to have? Is this our main export? I assume it is. I assume oil's going to be the best we've got. But I mean, if you can think of anything else, because I am pretty much the one building in the outskirts of Osahra, and I mean, I bloody love doing that. I think Skib's loving the city at the moment, so we both got our areas. But I'm kind of in a bit of a warehouse outer skirts kind of a mind at the moment, and Would love your input for some other ideas of places, some other manufacturing areas in Osahra that we can plop down in these areas. So I mean, definitely hit me up in the comments below, because I'm all ears, and I would really love to know some other ideas that we could plop down in this area. In terms of what I'm doing on screen, and like I said before, like these areas are kind of tricky to figure out exactly how they work just by going off Google Earth. Plus, I'm not a man of huge amounts of time. I do need to like get the job done eventually. So I'm kind of like just detailing these areas with general industrial props. I like to stick down a couple of walls just to divide a couple of areas. These containers are just awesome at filling in some gaps. Like whether or not they totally belong in an area like this, I don't know, I assume they do, but they also could probably be totally out of place. And just some general trucks and cars and, you know, blocks and pipes and all that sort of stuff kind of just help to fill out this area. So, you know, I think I do a pretty good job at detailing this area in terms of what I think could probably lay around here, but I've probably missed out on a couple of great props. So point me in the right direction if you notice anything missing. I'm now going to dive into the great intersection of Osahra that I'm just naming right now. And yeah, I mean, in terms of intersections, in terms of junctions, I wanted this one to be like pretty large. And you know, dealing with a lot of lanes as well makes it a little bit tricky, because, you know, I feel like the least amount of lanes you have in this game, the easier it is to manipulate. I wanted to make this quite large, you know, dealing with a minimal of 3 lanes on each stretch of road. So, and also I'm like, I not hardly ever do roads, but it's definitely not my forte. But like this is, I felt like this worked really nicely, and I really had something in mind for this particular area. So I did just go for it, and you'll see me, there's a lot of trial and error. There's a lot of footage that I did not include because you don't want to see what I was doing before. It was just it was pretty dreadful. And yeah, and like I said before, Skib is the master at this sort of stuff. So he's either shaking his head right now or he's giving me 2 thumbs up. Who knows? But like, I'm really happy with how it turns out. There's also, okay, so the way that I go about building these highways, and I don't know if this is totally conventional, but I like to lay down all the roads first, and then I generally then connect them all up using these already pre-made junctions, I guess, like, or merging lanes. Like, it feels like a bit of a cheat, but like, I'm all about, like, if it's already been done, like, I'm not going to redo it. You know, that's why you see me copying a lot of areas that I've already built, because I don't know, I get bored of doing the same thing over and over again. So, you know, if it's already pre-made, I'm just going to use it. And so I use a lot of those pre-made areas, stretch of roads, and they work really nicely, probably like 80% of the time, and then every now and again they just screw everything up. So I'm using a lot of those, and so yeah, what was I saying? I plop down all these lines, all these lanes, and then I kind of move it to just level everything back up, because it's all a mess due to the fact that it's not on a totally flat terrain. By the way, when I first started building this intersection, I thought this was completely flat. And then as soon as I finished building the oil facility, I realized that it's actually on somewhat of a steep terrain. And, you know, it just made things a little bit harder to actually connect and make everything even. And it was a real pain in the ass, but towards the end of it, it really made it way more unique. And I really like the fact now that it's not on the flattest of terrain. Though it's probably not the most realistic, because I think if they're going to make an intersection or a junction, they're going to do it on a flat plane, like ideally, like in terms of cost and practicality, but like in terms of how it looks sick. So I'm really glad with how it looks. It's almost like it's a bridge that connects two layers together, which is pretty cool. So I just kind of worked with it. This merge, this lane merge, it's a lane merge. I'm sure there's a term for this, but I'm not really saying it right. But this is probably my favorite section on this junction that I built. And what I really like about it is that I think we have about 7 lanes, maybe even more, 7 lanes over there connecting, well, splitting off into, a 2-3 lane parts. And it didn't flow as nicely as I was expecting, and then it just connected beautifully, and like I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I didn't go into like huge amounts of detail with this actual particular stretch, but I did plan to go back to it. But then when I did go back to it, I realized that it was pretty good, and I didn't really need to change it up too much. So, and the cars flow along this part really, really nicely, and you'll see that in the cinematics towards the end of the episode. I guess, like, in terms of how this looks, the real bummer with, I think, this intersection, and even just in terms of Osahra, is, when I visited, countries that are similar to Osahra, it's, the roads are usually pretty well clogged up. I mean, roads are pretty well clogged up in Sydney as well. And I guess this is just a problem in city skylines in general. I mean, we all joke about the traffic and how we want like less traffic, and we want cars to be merging far better than they do. But I mean, I might be the only one who would actually prefer to see more traffic. And of course, like if we're going to see more traffic, we're going to need to expect our game to be far laggier than it really is. But I kind of wish there was a mod that I could just turn on that, just spawns tons of traffic, and so I could just see this intersection in its true form, just filtering through, cars and trucks and just so much vehicle traffic coming through and spilling into the highways of Osahra and making its detour towards the farmlands. Unfortunately, I think you'll see probably like 5 or 6 cars driving across this thing. It doesn't get like tons of usage. Mind you, like I'm just looking down at the population of Osahra right now, and we're on like 13,000, which in terms of a city is pretty damn small. And I think we're just slowly building Osahra. So it's gonna be cool to see the city really start spewing with traffic and people eventually when it is way more full blown. And but I mean, that's my only gripe with this intersection, is that I couldn't really get as many cars and traffic as I wanted spewing onto it, but it still looks pretty good. Something that I'm doing right now is it was pretty annoying, but I built the intersection. I was like, great, like I'm almost done. It looks great. And then I realized that there was no way for this lane of traffic to get down, or basically detour the city. So I had to go back and change it up. So that's what I'm doing right now, is just adding this little stretch here, and I also detailed this area, and then I had to re-detail it, and I wasn't too impressed about it, but like how it ends up looking now is pretty good, and you'll be able to check that out in the cinematics pretty shortly. Sorry to interrupt the time lapse, everyone, but a couple of episodes ago, Skibbeth plopped a headless cow in my area that I built, and it kind of bothered me a bit. So I'm pretty sure he's not going to watch the entire time lapse today. I reckon he'll probably watch the first 5 minutes, and then he'll probably watch the cinematics at the end. So that's why I'm kind of putting this section in this area right now. And you know what? If you're watching right now, then you can have your own little part in it too. Just to mess with him a little bit, let's just plop a couple of cows down in his prison that he built, and we'll just see how long it takes him to realize. And your part in this is, if you are watching me right now plopping this down, can you please in the comments section below just plop a couple of cow-related comments. You know, you might want to say moo, you might want to put down a cow emoji. I mean, don't mention the prison, and don't make it too obvious, but let's just see how long it takes him to figure out that there's a whole bunch of cows sitting in his prison. I have a feeling that he's not even going to notice. Who knows, he might even watch the entire time lapse. That would be pretty interesting, but if he doesn't, like let's just see how long this lasts for. I mean, you can pretty much screw with him all comments in our videos, and I don't think he's going to get the reference. So yeah, I mean, that's your part. This is my part. Definitely hit that comment section, and let's see how long it takes him to realize that there are now a whole bunch of cows held hostage in his prison. So now that the main stretch of this junction is complete, I can actually start getting into the detailing part. And the detail looks pretty good, and I'm really, really happy with how it turned out. By the way, I'm just become aware that I'm switching between the terms intersection, interchange, junction so often. So I'm not really sure the technical term for this. I feel like it's a junction, but I call them intersections as well. Whatever it is, we are getting towards the end of the build, and I'm going to finish it off with a bit of detailing. These rocks fit in pretty close to how our cliff faces look in Osahra, and I think they work really nicely paired with some smaller rocks. I mean, these are sea they're called breakwater by Strict Oyster, and they fit pretty nicely just as some general ground cover. And you know, you're probably wondering why I'm plopping down so many trees in a desert. Well, I know it feels a bit strange, but deserts aren't just totally, and they're not totally just sand. There's a lot of vegetation in deserts, particularly when they're close to the water, which this one is. And we're getting into some more lusher grounds. We're not in the heart of the desert at this particular spot in Osahra. So there's, quite a lot of little bits of shrubs, and particularly around the ridges of the mountains, which we are in right now. There's quite a lot of vegetation. I'm not really sure how vegetation works, but judging off maps, there's a lot of vegetation around cliff faces, and I guess where a lot of the water runs off into these little areas. You just saw me copy and paste. Like I said, that's all I do these days, is I detail half an area and then I just copy it. Call it cheating if you like, but like I said before, don't have crazy amounts of time, and I get fairly over detailing pretty quickly, particularly when it's an area that I've done like trillions and trillions of times. I just it's way easier just to copy it. I don't know if this ash is the ash tree that I'm popping down is the right type of tree for this area. I think it fits in pretty well. Please let me know if you think I should change it up, because I've only plopped it there. I've been using other trees in other areas, but I did want a tree that covered quite a lot of ground in that area. I mean, that was actually something Skib and I had a bit of trouble with, is figuring out the vegetation that was going to fit in Osahra. And that is always the trouble with creating new maps, is you need to consider all this stuff. And, I think we've done a pretty good job at getting the general formula for a desert build in mind. The weird thing is, I'll just talk about this really quickly, but we were plopping down palm trees all over the place in the first couple of episodes, until someone kind of pointed out that palm trees aren't exactly a desert foliage, and so we kind of changed our ways pretty quick. But every now and again, we just can't help ourselves, and we plop down another palm tree. I think in particular we're plopping down like coconut trees, and like that's like just totally wrong. It was probably Mr. Mason. He's probably like just looking at us going, you have no idea what you guys are doing. We are getting towards the end of the episode, and to wrap it up, I'm just detailing this train line and just figuring out the next step of this episode. I haven't done the next episode yet. I'm about 2 weeks from doing it, so if you have any suggestions for me, if you want me to build any particular area, please let me know. I'm all ears. I read everything, so don't be mean. You know who you are, you're a bloody rebellion group. And yeah, so let me know. I'm pretty keen to figure out next place I'm going to build. I'm a little bit lost of where I'm going to build next. I have a couple of places in mind. So yeah, definitely hit me up there. While you're hitting me up there, definitely go and smash that like button if this video has been of interest to you. Go and check out the rest of our series if you haven't done that already, because it's a pretty good damn series, if I may say so myself. And if you haven't checked out Skip's channel, I mean, that is definitely recommended because he's the other half of this series. Next episode will of course be up on his channel. We'll be back together at last, which will be really nice. I'm sure he'll be back in the city doing something brilliant. But until next time, have a great week, and I'll catch you guys in the next episode. See ya.